to another super awesome, super exciting episode of the Super Awesome Geek Show YouTube series. I know it's a lot of super awesomes. You can check us out at www.superawesomegeekshow.com for our podcast, or just go to iTunes. We'll be back at the end of April 2017. So today I got something a little bit different for you. I watched Star Wars Rebels Twin Suns, the episode we've all been waiting for, the rematch between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Maul. Although now he's just called Maul, dropped the Darth because he's no longer a Sith. And here's my commentary about what I think this episode means and how important it is to Ezra Bridger's arc. So in the beginning, we see Darth Maul out in the desert. Maul decides to use Ezra to draw Obi-Wan out. "Tempt his noble heart," he says. We also see a piece of the holocron in Maul's hand. And then another one inside the ghost, I assume. It's in Kanan's quarters, I would guess. So what we can assume is that Maul can talk through or manipulate Ezra in some way through the pieces of these holocrons. I find it interesting here that they say Senator Organa confirmed Obi-Wan's death, leading me to believe that, like we saw in Rogue One, Mon Mothma whispers to Bail Organa, saying, "Can you get the Jedi you know out of hiding?" So Mon Mothma and Bail Organa must be the only two people who know, well, besides Yoda, that Obi-Wan is actually still alive. So Ezra follows the pieces of the holocron like he would a compass. And one seems to lead to the light side, whereas the other one leads dark side. So at this point, I'm questioning those two pieces in his hand is one from the Jedi light side holocron and one from the Sith dark side holocron. But again, I think the compass part is Maul manipulating Ezra and using him to find Kenobi. Well, at one point here, you see that one of the pieces of the holocron turns red, and it directs Ezra out into the desert. Ezra just keeps following, and you can see that Maul is sending false visions through the holocron. He's just building up his manipulations of Ezra. Ezra follows the holocrons out into the desert, like I said, and turns out to be a trap. He finds another piece of a holocron, and then these sand people start attacking him. And of course, Maul then saves him, in quotes, because I think he set the whole thing up, obviously. Ezra has a false vision out in the sand dunes. I personally believe this is also Maul manipulating things through the use of the holocrons. He's using the sand people and all these other things that are happening along the way in the desert to build up Ezra's distress. His distress will cause a disturbance in the Force that Obi-Wan will feel, and it will draw him out, like Maul said, part of his plan. Ezra is really only there to draw Obi-Wan out, so Maul and Obi-Wan, basically so Maul can kill Obi-Wan. After Ezra has his vision, Kenobi finds him, and I want to make a comment on the voice. The actor they chose is freaking phenomenal. Performed by actor Stephen Stanton, or it could be Stephen, S-T-E-P-H-E-N, Stephen Stanton. But he sounded like a mix of the old, like Ewan McGregor, you know, from the prequels, and the new, well, I guess I kind of said that backwards, huh? The old Alec Guinness and the new Ewan McGregor, and then James Arnold Taylor. So, like, all those mixtures were in there, and he sounded a lot like an older Obi-Wan Kenobi, like Alec Guinness. So, I mean, more so than Ewan McGregor or James Arnold Taylor. So, good job there, Stephen Stanton. I'm sure a lot of people out there will agree that voice was pretty much spot on. But we know that Obi-Wan has no intention of fighting, although he says it is inevitable now. Basically, he's there to protect Luke, and that's it. And he didn't plan on doing anything otherwise. Now that Ezra has brought Maul to him, he has no choice but to finish this fight. So Kenobi wants Ezra to leave. He says that he tells Ezra that he has everything that he needs already. And there'll be more on that in just a little bit. So keep that in mind while you're watching the show until you get to the end there. He verifies the deception by Maul, tells him that Maul knows your fears and your heart. Truth is what we make of it. So in a sense, it seems like Obi-Wan is just trying to tell Ezra that he's obviously been manipulated. And even though the holocrons are telling you something, it's not necessarily the truth. You have to determine for yourself what truth you're going to follow, in a sense. And this has kind of been a thing for Obi-Wan. We can see all throughout his arc. The truths that he clings to are the truths that are in his own mind. They might not necessarily be the truth galaxy-wide, or the truth as you or another individual sees it. Ezra tells Obi-Wan that the holocron sent him to him. He says, "You're supposed to help us destroy the Sith." And Obi-Wan says, "First I've heard of it," which is very typical Obi-Wan. I loved that line. But basically what I think he means is Obi-Wan knows he's not the chosen one that's there to destroy the Sith. It's actually Luke. So Ezra's vision of him, the answer that the way to destroy the Sith is on the planet with the twin suns, the answer is Luke, not Obi-Wan. So some of us thought originally that the same answer was for both questions, Maul's and Ezra's, and the answer was Obi-Wan on Tatooine. But really, Ezra's answer is Luke, and Maul's answer was the planet with twin suns, which is where Obi-Wan Kenobi was watching over Luke. So he basically sends Ezra on his way. I love the fact, by the way, that Obi-Wan has a dewback, and the thing looks like it's smiling. This picture of all three of them together is great with Chopper. So once Ezra leaves, Obi-Wan taunts Maul, calling him his old wound. He wants to mend this old wound, he says, which I think is pretty funny. Maul replies by, "See you soon, apprentice." But in a sense, I think Maul knows that Obi-Wan was telling him the truth. By saying he's an old wound, he's worth nothing, and he is nothing. And for all that Maul has done, it has made no effect and means nothing. And Maul knows that, which only infuels his rage. So then they're ready to face off. Here's the final battle. The tension builds. And here I imagine the creators had a choice. They could either do a quick fight, or they could do a down and out, drawn out fight with lots of showy moves and cool effects. But I'm not sure which one would be better. I mean, what would you have chosen if you were the one to write this episode? They obviously went with the short fight, which I think is really good. At first, I was kind of like, oh, that's a little bit of a letdown. But then when I thought about it, I said, no. Obi-Wan is a total master by now of the Force and of his wielding of a lightsaber, if you want to say. And like a true samurai, which is what these are built off of, this showdown was kind of one of those like samurai in the fields kind of things, where each combatant draws its weapon and they come flying at each other with one swift, decisive strike. And this was reminiscent of those old Japanese samurai films. And I thought that was perfect because basically all of Star Wars has been built upon these old Japanese films and in the way of the samurai. So having this was a great nod to that. And I actually now really like the way that they did this in here, being just a quick, decisive blow. There was one or two little exchanges and then woof, it's over. Obi-Wan just ignites his lightsaber. But there's one thing I want to point out. You do notice that Obi-Wan only ignited his lightsaber after Maul hit on what Obi-Wan was doing on Tatooine. Basically guarding Luke. Someone. You're protecting someone. And then we just have that quick battle. One decisive blow shows Obi-Wan's immense skill. I mean, you're blown away by it. It's completely impressive. And then Obi-Wan takes pity on him. Obi-Wan catches him after he falls. He lays in his arms. And he just says, "Tell me, is he the chosen one?" Obi-Wan acknowledges that. And he just says, "He will avenge us." Maul and Obi-Wan have been locked in a cycle since the day Maul appeared on Tatooine. This circle is now complete. It ties the cycle up between these two. And Obi-Wan has just one more thing to do, and that is protect Luke. And if that does bring him into the shadow of Darth Vader again, then so be it. he will complete that circle as well. It seems like there's a lot of circles in Star Wars. Characters' arcs begin and end in a similar fashion. Where one begins, one tends to end. The circle is now complete. When I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master. Only a master of evil doth. Well, maybe Ezra has finally learned his lesson. He's been manipulated 3 to 4 times now. Maybe even more. I mean, I don't know. I think that's just by Maul. All the bounty hunters seem to manipulate him also. But maybe he's finally grown up and he's learned his lesson. When Ezra returns to the planet where the Bendo is, and the rebel base for Phoenix Squadron, he, this picture here with them and his whole crew together, the whole Phoenix Squad ghost crew, I think that's what what Obi-Wan was talking about, and what Ezra has to realize is that this is his family, and with family, that's all you need. Your friends, your family, and you can get through anything. And you should trust them over any visions or any false truths. Well, truths, because those truths could be false. I do want to point out one quick fun note here. Ezra returns with Maul's Mandalorian Death Watch ship, adding that to the Rebel fleet. So he left with a trainer and came back with a way better ship. I wonder if we'll see it again in a future episode. Like maybe this will become Ezra's personal ship. That would be kind of cool. I want a Lego of it. And the show leaves us with a Obi-Wan quietly riding his dewback out to see the Lars homestead and the twin sons as he watched Luke run by. A new hope for the galaxy. So, I don't know. What do you guys think of Ezra's arc? What do you think of this show? What do you think of this episode of Star Wars Rebels, Twin Sons? All right. List your comments and questions. Please respond. Go to Twitter at Awesome Geek Show and say something. Or just, respond here in the comments. Well, thanks a lot for listening and watching another exciting video of the Super Awesome Geek Show. Talk to you guys later. I'm John. Keep it geeky out there. And follow us on Twitter at Awesome Geek Show. All right. See you later. Bye-bye. May the Force be with you. Always.